all of this stuff that I've done and the success I've had at university and then also outside of university, it all stemmed from having City Academy to launch me into that position.
I'm Glenn Herbert, and I'm an editor with Our Kids. We're speaking with insiders from Canada's leading private schools to gain insights into their programs, culture, traditions, and leadership. This includes insights from parents, alumni, and administrators. This is the Our Kids Insider Perspective.
Well, I think that I really appreciated the small class size, being able to communicate really closely with your teachers. You know, if you're stuck on a question, you're not competing with 25 or 30 other students for help. You know, you will get that help. That was something I really appreciated. And also having, you know, only 2 courses at once, what was extremely important for me. Just being able to, you know, stay on top of a physics course where you test every second day, you know, I think that was extremely important for me because, you know, all students there work hard, and a lot of students at a lot of high schools work hard, but having this sort of balance between courses and testing and making it a little bit more frequent so you stay on top of your work, I think that's more geared towards every type of student rather than just one kind. I think that it offers a lot of flexibility. I think that, you know, not all students are following the same path, whereas at some public schools, like the high school I went to, everybody was sort of, you're either becoming a doctor or an engineer, pretty much. That was the two. Whereas it's very clear that at City Academy, everybody's sort of, it's clear that everybody's individual and going on their own path. But what's great is because the school isn't 1,400 kids, right? Like a lot of high schools, is that they really are able to serve everybody's needs a little bit more individually, right? And have a more personalized experience where, you know, if somebody needs a specific course or is trying to learn something within that course that's more directly related to their field of choice where they might go into at university, you know, that can be accounted for, like that is provided. So I'd say it's someone that you might meet that they're in a way that they are sort of adaptable, where, you know, a lot of times you might meet someone or go to a school where everything is extremely rigid and fixed and not willing to sort of bend to anybody else. Whereas I think that City Academy, the personality I would give it would be more along the lines of someone who would sort of treat every situation differently, you know, be able to read the situation, you know, read who they might be interacting with, and then adjusting to, you know, have the best possible outcome of their conversation, right? It's all about, you know, considerations, adaptability, flexibility, and yeah, just being considerate, right? Like I wanted to be a designer of some sort, although I think I was more engineering focused right at the end of high school. And then as I transitioned through City Academy and then through university and then till now, it's gotten further away from engineering. And I think that when I was at school and I was working with Kieran, the art teacher at City, you know, he knew I wanted to become a product designer. So sometimes we'd be working with, right, charcoal and things like that, where those are definitely more fine art, more based around fine arts, and someone who might actually go into fine arts or study art history. Whereas for me, it's more working with, you know, ballpoint pens, Copic markers, fast sketches. And he was able to weave that sort of that kind of work into the curriculum, whereas, we have to do a character study, say, and some people would paint, some people might do watercolor, some people might do charcoal. But for me, he said, why don't you, to challenge me and to get me more prepared for university, he says, why don't you do this with ballpoint pen and Copic markers, which is something that was really useful, because when first year university came around and we were looking at marker rendering, I was covered already. Right. So, I'd say like that, Kieran read the situation. He saw what I needed. He tweaked things around to best, prepare me for what was ahead. And I think that also comes down to me communicating exactly what I want and what I was going to need. And then also him listening and understanding, oh, he's trying to do design. I'm not just going to force him to do, painting that won't really help him going forward, but sort of make these small tweaks and adapt and understand that, oh, so design, you do this. Let's bring this into the curriculum for him. I think that for generally all of the students were they weren't a stereotypical student. I encountered a lot of what you would call stereotypical students at North Toronto and at my previous high school. And, like crazy, amazing grades, killing it in math and physics, don't care about English, like a lot of different things, right? Where there's sort of these prototypical academics. And I think that a lot of the students that I met at City, they all had something a little bit more unique to them, and something that was sort of not something that you would necessarily see across everybody, but everybody was a little bit more individual and sort of had a little niche that they were working with, or some sort of some skill that, wouldn't be found in every student. They were a little bit more individual. And I think that one thing that sort of also helped bring students together was just small classes and, us all sort of having some unique traits about us, I think. Like, and that's not in no way a negative thing. It's just that we have something very interesting and extraordinary to offer. And the typical school system isn't prepared to sort of help cultivate that. Yeah, I would say that what I'm going to say is that I don't think that this would be, although it might sound good on a brochure or you could sort of see one, I don't think it would be something that you would say. But it was sort of an idea of no student left behind, which is kind of like a movie term, like something that you might hear. But there actually was a movie that had that exact term in it. But it was sort of the idea where there was no sort of falling back into the crowd and sitting in the back, like it was, you're in the front, you're engaged with the teacher, you've got, 5, maybe 6, maybe 8 people, students with you around you. There's no room for, people just sort of falling off, like at a lot of other schools where people can fly under the radar and or just leave and nobody notices. Whereas at City, it's definitely, you feel like, and it's not, if I figure out what I'm trying to say here, but like it's just, you feel accounted for. You don't feel like you're left in the dust, or like any teacher doesn't have time to help you, and because testing is so often, teachers know if you're not understanding things, right? It's not like, oh, our tests are 2 months apart, right? The course is done in 2 months, right? Like you're going to be, taken care of, right? Even if you're struggling. And the teachers are more than happy to spend some extra time to make sure that you're getting, the right education, right? For in this time frame. I think that one thing that I found surprising, beyond my unique experience with Kieran, my art teacher, is just how well I was able to excel with only 2 courses at a time, condensed, right? Like there's a lot of work. You're doing, I think, 2.5-ish hours a day of each course. So you'll do like 2.5, break 2.5. So you're doing a lot of work and you're working hard. But the fact that I had struggled so long in traditional school while working extremely hard, this was really refreshing. It was like finally getting a good win, like this opportunity. So I haven't had a connection with a teacher or a professor like the one I did with Kieran, like he really took me under his wing. He introduced me to my favorite musician of all time. We've gone and drawn in cafes since I've gone to university. I keep in touch, right? That was, I think, one of the biggest surprises that's much more personal to me rather than just the school as a whole that I think provides. But yeah, those are the 2 things that I would say. I think that, which maybe is more important in my eyes, is that it provided me the opportunity to become maybe what I was meant to be. Whereas like all this stuff that I've done and the success I've had at university and then also outside of university, it all stemmed from having City Academy to launch me into that position of success. It was clear that if I hadn't attended City Academy, I wouldn't have gotten into that university, wouldn't have had that success, probably wouldn't have gotten the same connections that helped lead to the jobs that I've completed in that time. So I do really attribute a lot of my success to attending City Academy and having that time, and also having that small break between my final year of high school and university. I sort of did something similar before going to high school as well. And I think that was just an extremely important time to take time and go at my own pace, right? Just because I'm not, getting the 95%, getting accepted as soon as early, and jumping from top of the class in high school to university has no impact on whether you're going to be successful. And I think that City Academy was really helpful in helping me understand that, and that it really helped take me to that next level where I'm able to have that success. I think that one thing that, and I think it's down to the style of the school and the location, but there's some students that I never got to meet, whereas maybe I would see them passing in the hallways or I'd see them in their other classrooms, but essentially outside of my class, there wasn't a whole lot of interaction between my two courses or my 4 courses that I took over my time there. And I think that having something that would bring all of the students together, or at least, more students together, would be a nice thing for just to meet more people, right? And like I mentioned earlier, we're all sort of similar in a way, and it's nice. We're all similar in the sense that we're all quite individual, and I think it'd be really interesting and exciting to sort of meet more people like that. I think definitely I've realized how important it was and how impactful it was in a positive way, of course. Um, I think that one thing that I realized was in my first year of university, I realized how prepared I was, and not necessarily to work hard because of that is something that I've always had, but in a skill sense, I was really well prepared from a skill point of view, um, both with design work, studio work, and then also the courses that I took, the math and physics that I also took as well. I think really, I felt no pain at university after taking those. So I think that I'd say the first reason is that depending on what you're going there for and what situation you are, I think it's always going to be a good fit, whether you're going to be there for a couple of years or just like me for half a year. I think that clearly based off of their flexible model, it's definitely going to be success regardless of your situation. I also think that I would recommend City because of the small classes and having a really in-depth, close proximity to your teachers, and you get a little bit of a better or a closer understanding of the curriculum because you have the ability to ask questions and spend extra time with professors as well. And I think that the third reason is just because I think that they do a really good job in educating. All of their teachers, all of my teachers, I really enjoyed and were extremely just excellent educators. And I think that, from what I've heard from all of my other classmates when I was there that had different courses than mine, is that the quality of teacher is extremely high. It would be something that I would recommend is balancing the course education. For example, I took an art or a creative course and a highly technical course, and I did that twice. And the balance of that was really great, really exciting. And I think that, if you have to take, if you're looking to take, mainly math courses, I think that it would be worth your while to split those up and take something else where you can learn a little bit, because learning something in taking a course strictly based off of curiosity or interest in high school, you sort of can, in a traditional high school, you can sort of get lost in the pack and eventually start to forget why you took the course. But I feel like because everything's so small and you're so integrated, that you will learn a lot. And because it's condensed, you're really on top of it. And it's something that when you have that kind of a model and you have that opportunity to learn something that's not simply just because I need that credit on my top six, it's a great opportunity. And because the staff is extremely talented and top quality, top tier educators, it's 100% going to be worth it. I'd say get ready to work hard and get to know your teachers, because you don't have an opportunity at a lot of other places to really get to know your teachers, not just as educators, but as people, because they have a lot of insight and they can really help you if you get to know them and let them get to know you.
Hmm.
Yeah. And it's also, you know, sometimes the most important conversations are not those that are about work or about school, but it's just about everything else or anything else, right? Like if you can find a connection with somebody or like a common ground, then your relationship is going to become so much more valuable with them versus if it's strictly business. So yeah, like for us, it was music, it was art, it was design, and it's someone who I can, because of that, it's someone who I can send a message to asking for advice. It's someone who, like, how many students would contact their teacher saying, hey, do you want to go to this concert with me? Right? It doesn't happen very often, but then that's something that, and that's one thing about those relationships is that they last, and there's benefits from that. I had a similar, not the same, not nearly the same, but I got really close to a professor of mine at university, and I was easily able to ask him about a role that I was applying for, saying, do you think this would be a good fit for me? And his answer was no. But if I didn't make that connection with that teacher, I wouldn't have had that opportunity to ask him because he had worked with these people before. So, it's almost like when you're in university or when you're in high school, people often will give the advice of, meet people, make connections. You never know who you're going to need a favor from. You never know who's going to be working at that company, stuff like that. And I think it's important to treat your teachers the same way. Don't see them as, ugh, that guy giving me homework, but a person that could really help you and has gone through, a whole chunk of life that you haven't yet, right? That can offer advice, insight. And it's coming down to, obviously they're not going to go and try to be your best friend because that's not necessarily their position. But if you sort of let them know that you're open to that and make an effort, they will reciprocate.
For more information about this school, you can visit their profile at ourkids.net.